we'll get going. Welcome everyone. I'm David Stengle. I'm the chapter director for the StartupGrind Princeton chapter. For those of you not familiar with StartupGrind, we are a global organization in hundreds of cities around the world, most of them outside the United States. I think there are 100 plus chapters in North America, but we're represented all over the world. Princeton is one of the oldest and most active chapters globally. This is our 161st event, I think, and we're here to inspire, educate, and connect entrepreneurs and people interested in the startup scene. And especially this chapter has a focus on helping people who are outside the world of venture navigate into the world of venture. Venture in the startup world can be absolutely amazing, world-changing. It can also be a hard club to break into. And we do what we can to make that a little easier. And the theme for this event is our second annual panel with interns who have done their first tour as venture capitalists, and a little bit about their journey on how they came into the world of venture, and after 3 months in the salt mines, how it looks after spending some time hands-on. So with that, I'd like to give everyone a chance to introduce yourself, and then we'll jump into questions. And just a big shout out to 1435 Capital for running this amazing internship program, for setting up the facility, and for all the support they do for the local ecosystem here. It's been tremendous.
I'm Ansh. I'm a rising junior at Stanford Online High School, and I'm a venture analyst at 1435 Capital.
I'm Steven. I'm also a venture analyst, and I go to North School, as you can see right over there, and I'm a rising senior.
I'm Suhani. I'm a rising senior at the Brearley School, and like everyone else, I'm a venture analyst at 1435 Capital.
So I want to just say that it blows my mind that you can get a venture capital internship while you're in high school, and the teenage me is just filled with envy at this opportunity. And these are all one percenters. There's hundreds and hundreds of applicants for these programs, and you are the chosen few, so congrats for that. I'm going to jump in with some questions. So let's start with, I'd like each of you, and maybe we can start, Ansh, with you and on this round. How did you first get interested in venture? What prompted you to go in that direction?
Yeah, so prior to joining my current school, I had basically no exposure to the world of finance. Upon joining my school, I met a couple of my friends whose parents were involved in finance, and they were really into finance. So they invited me to our school's investment club, of which I'm now the vice president. And we did all these trading competitions, investment competitions, economics competitions, and that's how I realized, okay, I like this is what I want to do for my career.
Yeah.
And then I spent a long time looking for internships and eventually landed on this one.
Okay, and just to press on that a little bit, so that finance is broad. Did you look across a whole spectrum of financial stuff, and this was the shiniest opportunity you found?
Yeah, so I began with options trading, stock trading. I went through everything. I looked at basically every career in finance.
Sure.
And being in the Bay Area, I saw a lot of VC influence, both startups there, and eventually landed on VC as my choice.
Got it.
So my dad works in insurance,
Yep.
and I kind of always saw myself following in those footsteps in some way, but he didn't personally think I would work well in insurance, so that kind of led me to find out what else finance has to offer in the field, which it has a lot, undoubtedly. So I kind of organically found it through some just Coursera classes. I think I did one initially in private equity, and then I did one in VC, and kind of determined out of the two, and then I like VC a lot more.
So I mean, how did you decide to take those classes? I mean, talk about what's going on in your head there.
So the schools that I previously attended don't really have a lot of economic classes.
Yeah.
So I was always very interested in economics. again, because of my dad. So I kind of use that as like a stepping stone, and I just knew there was information out there online. So I just took some Coursera classes and just found a lot of information online, like YouTubers and stuff like that.
And so part of this is about how you get in from the outside. So let me ask you right here, did those Coursera classes, how did they prepare you for what you did this summer? Did it move the needle?
Yeah, I think it definitely did, because before I even applied, I knew a lot of the terms. I understood a vague idea of how the system works.
Sure.
And that definitely helped me understand, like, what am I actually looking at, what makes a vague idea of a good company.
All right.
When I came here, I learned a lot more about it.
For sure, we'll dig into that in a little bit. But okay, so tip number one is Coursera's out there.
Yeah.
You can come up to speed. There are other amazing resources. I'm a big fan of Y Combinator's university stuff, which is free and pretty shiny. But self-starting is a thing. Okay.
Yeah, I honestly would have to say kind of something similar to everyone else, in that
Sure.
I really didn't know what venture capital was until like halfway through 10th grade. And basically at that point I was like looking through a Forbes 30 under 30 article, and I came across a woman who has started this nonprofit trying to bring other girls into venture capital, and I had, first of all, no idea what venture capital was, so I Googled it and I thought it was super interesting because I've always been interested, on the business side of things.
Sure.
And then because of that, I ended up cold emailing her and a ton of other startup founders, and just trying to and also VCs, and trying to.
Did you get a response?
I mean, most people did not respond to me, but I feel like the few that did, I did learn a lot from them, and I really enjoyed talking to them, and one of them is still kind of like an elder sister to me today. So I would say,
So
because of that, I got really
don't be afraid of rejections on cold email. You don't have to get a 100% return to get something that lasts a long time. All right, very cool. So what did you do specifically? How did you find this internship gig? Did you go to,
Yeah, so since freshman year when I joined my new school and I realized I wanted to be in finance, I spent the next year searching everywhere. I was Googling internships for high schoolers, and I really just couldn't find anything. But eventually I came across the Google search result 1435 Capital in a list of high school internships in finance.
Okay.
And that happened to be the day before the open house, the remote open house. I joined that, and that's when I realized that this is where I wanted to be.
So SEO for the win, but also a lot of searching.
So I initially went through this whole program completely unrelated about 2 years ago, and that was, it's called Standout Connect.
Yep.
And from there I went and got an internship at a marketing firm in Hawaii for virtual for basically the whole summer. That wasn't really as many hours as I want to work.
Yeah, I think if you get a Hawaii job, you don't want to do it virtually, but maybe that's just me.
No, same thing. Yeah, I was a little disappointed. But on the list that they had on their website, they had a bunch of other companies that weren't necessarily advertising on there, but they just were, here are other good opportunities. So I saw 1435 Capital, and it definitely intrigued me because that was around the same time I got really into VC. And that's how I applied and got in.
Okay.
Yeah, honestly, like you mentioned in the beginning that you were kind of blown away that there was a VC internship for high schoolers. I was also blown away because it came up on my LinkedIn, it came up on like a newsletter that I followed, so I was like very shocked to see that this opportunity was actually out there, and honestly the moment I read the description I like knew I had to apply.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right,
that's how
I love it. All right, so hang on to the mic, we're going to go back the other way, but I'm really interested if you can talk about what you expected before you started the job. And what the gap was between the expectations that you had and the reality of doing the work.
Yeah, for sure. So I think there were honestly a ton of things. I think the first thing was that I was honestly expecting to kind of sit at a desk all day and like type out numbers and like write paragraphs. And I also thought it would be like a lot more data driven than it actually ended up being.
Okay.
I think when I came here I was surprised by like the different types of work. There was like going to events, attending pitch events online, like watching, taking notes on that, and then also there were a lot less numbers than I anticipated. It was a lot more interaction driven and a lot more speaking to people than making spreadsheets and like doing projections.
Okay.
Yeah, I would definitely go with a lot of the things that Suhani said. But in addition to that, one of the big things, and I guess what I was expecting going into it was, I didn't think the team. I knew the team mattered. I didn't know how much it did matter, though. There was definitely a very big emphasis on who's the team.
And are you talking about the startup teams or the 1435 team, or?
Startup teams.
Yeah.
That was a very big emphasis.
Sure.
Is, who the leaders of the team are. Do they have experience? Are they serial entrepreneurs?
Yeah.
Or are they very new to the space? And then going from there, you can kind of make a lot of other assumptions about what their success rate is going to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yeah, so to a certain extent, I did understand that, like in VC, with all these early stage companies, their financials and the projections, you can't use them as much.
For
but
sure.
I was really surprised the extent to which a lot of the teams were meeting and founders and startups were judging them based on the person and basically like the vibes that the person and the founder is giving off.
So one common saying is jockeys, not horses. And I'll tell you my favorite quote about early stage startup financial projections, which is from an MD of a big European seed stage fund, who said 5-year financials are like poetry. They're just, you might enjoy it, but it's not really going to help you on the business side. All right, so what was the biggest surprise from the job?
I guess on the same note, it was the emphasis on people in VC, as opposed to, you see all these like models, DCF, all the projections. Actually, on the other side, like in public equity, you have so much more data to work with. I think that was the surprise.
In addition to that, I would also say the events that we go to, like what we do there, is very important.
Right.
The networking is a very big aspect of how we source our deals, of how we manage to get the actual money flowing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's obviously a huge emphasis that I would put on. And again, that to the degree that I see it, is definitely a really big surprise to me compared to what I previously thought.
Yeah, I think I definitely have to agree with what everyone else said.
All right.
And I think also this is more specific to the internship rather than VC in general.
Sure.
But I was very much like shocked at the extent to which we were like allowed to be immersed in the field. Whether that's like talking to investors at these events or like speaking to founders like ourselves without like supervision or something. Because usually in other internships there's a lot of shadowing
How cool
and
is that? Right,
observation.
go make coffee.
And less,
right?
Go make coffee. And there's like almost none of that in this one. So.
That's, credit to the organization, but very, very cool. So what was your favorite project or thing that you worked on if you look back at the 8 weeks, I guess it's been tomorrow? What's your highlight reel for SportsCenter? What's the thing you call out?
Yeah, I think for me this was not necessarily a project, but more like a moment or something I really enjoyed doing.
Sure.
I really enjoyed leading calls with founders. I think before I did it, I was extremely terrified, but I think the experience of like being able to not just go through someone's pitch deck and watch, but also actually be able to ask questions on the things I didn't know and the things I wanted to learn more about, like that was a super engaging experience for me and like one that I really enjoyed doing.
And how did that compare your first one to your last one, or what did you learn in that process?
Yeah, I think two things. So I think the first thing is I learned to keep it more conversational rather than just read off of a list of questions that I'd already prepared.
Yeah.
And so I
a founder shouldn't just read their slides, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess I became more comfortable with being more conversational and thinking on my feet a little bit more.
Yeah.
I'd have to say that was probably the biggest takeaway.
Great tip.
For me, I would just say the amount of work we write reports. That's obviously a very big part of the job is doing due diligence on companies. So the amount of reports, like total distance, you're looking at like 40 to 45 pages.
Yeah.
And timeline-wise, it's about 3, 4, 5 days.
Yeah.
That amount of time, it's mainly just us three that are writing those reports. Like the total just speed that we do it at, I'm very proud of myself and the whole team for like how fast we can work. Especially where we started, we definitely just hit the ground running.
Okay.
I'm very proud of that.
Nice. Ansh.
Yeah, so my favorite part of the whole job has been these the pitch events that we go to. Meeting all these, like getting to see all these cool startups, the different ideas that there are, just like the whole range of people that we see pitching at these events. That's been really enjoyable.
Okay. So what are the new skills? If you had to write up, like, here's what I learned, here are the new skills in my toolbox. I mean, Donnie, you already talked about leading calls, but what new things have you developed that you thought were most important for where this goes?
I'd say the number one skill that I've loved is learning to engage with new people and then being able to read the person. Since a lot of the online pitches that we view, they're 3-5 minutes, and in that period of time, you sort of got to judge the person and figure out if you want to follow up with them.
Yeah.
At the same time, in person, even though the pitch is a bit longer, it's still based on the person where you decide whether or not you're going to follow up.
Okay. New skill.
Yeah, so I would say my biggest new skill was just the way that I talk to people.
Yeah.
I definitely see a very big change in, I just call it active listening was a big one. It's just how I was initially, I was just kind of thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say in response to this person? But instead of more, this is mainly at networking events, but also when I'm leading a call, is how I dissect the information the person is saying and how I'm altering that to make it feel like a conversation, move very fluently.
Yeah.
And for me, that was initially pretty hard, but I managed to overcome that, I think, just through practice.
Yeah. Suhani?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree on both of the points that they mentioned, but I think for me, one thing that I definitely learned was being able to unpack, more technical information without necessarily having like a technical background. So a lot of the startups that we look at are more like technology related or have like a product or a service with a lot of science behind it.
Sure.
And I personally go to a school that's a lot more humanities focused and STEM focused. So I was initially quite daunted by that task, but I think over time I was able to do my own research and kind of get the necessary background to be able to understand those things better, and just feel a lot more confident in general with doing a process like that.
Great. So I'm hearing this common theme that soft skills and reading people, fundamental part of the business, and that you had real chances to practice that in the flow of your week. So maybe each of you, and maybe it's similar or not, but talk about the arc of your week. What does it look like, and how would you make that pie chart of how you spend your time between networking and discounted cash flows or whatever there is in between?
Yeah, I can start, and then
Sure.
I think the biggest, portion of our time that we use is allocated towards writing reports, and whether that's a quarterly report or writing a diligence report on a certain company. So I think that's probably the most amount of time.
Yeah.
And then in addition to that, there's attending pitch events. So a lot of those are virtual. They tend to be 2 hours, and we have I think 2 or 3 of those a week.
Right.
And then usually in-person events tend to be after, I think.
So how many startups are you looking at a week? What's the typical need throughput?
I would say for each event there's maybe 30, so I would say
100 a week.
100 a week, yeah.
Right. So just do the math on that, right? Go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to that, there's definitely an aspect of expect the unexpected, because it could be a Monday morning and then new deal comes through, we got to start writing a report immediately and kind of just drop
Sure.
everything mentality, and it kind of keeps things interesting. It's not I don't really think of it as monotonous, even though the tasks may be very similar in nature, but it's just
every startup's got a story. Right?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah.
Obviously, leading calls is personally one of my favorites, just because it's very interactive.
Yeah.
Getting more hands-on experience than a lot of other opportunities. So that's
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with what's been said, and totally with the sentiment that Steven expressed. In VC, you don't know what tomorrow's going to be. So every week isn't the same. Some weeks are lighter weeks, we don't have as much. One week there is a deal, so we get the right report. I think that's just part of VC that's really dynamic like that.
Okay, so just after 8 weeks of doing it for reals, right? More excited about being in VC or less excited?
Definitely more excited.
More excited. All right.
I think through this internship, I got to see what VC really is behind the scenes, and through that, I decided that is probably, even though I'm keeping my options open, since there's so many ways to go in finance.
You don't have to sign up blood as a rising junior, right? It's not.
Yeah.
But, okay, more excited.
I'd go with also more excited as well.
Yeah.
And just to add on, I would say I went from, I want to test the waters. I definitely want to see what's in VC. And now I'm definitely this feels very much about something that I'd be into moving forward.
Okay.
And even if it isn't, there is a lot of other like overlapping skills that you get in VC that kind of lets you expand into other sections of like high finance.
Or the world. I mean, I think that being an active listener is both rare and useful in every endeavor. So.
Yeah, I think I'd also definitely have to say I'm 100% more interested.
Okay.
But I do think that, being able to do this internship has also exposed me to like other fields in finance that I didn't know existed. So for example, private credit or, secondaries, there's a lot of things I just didn't know were out there. So I think for me, I'm more excited by just like seeing what opportunities actually exist that I just haven't been told about or haven't learned about. But obviously my eye is still, towards VC and I'm really excited about pursuing it.
So let me ask the question, you're all high school students and you're doing real VC work. Did you ever have moments where you're getting attitude like, who the hell are you, kid, to be talking to me? And like, what was that like?
Yeah, that was for me it was definitely
you don't have to throw anybody under the bus, but
I think it was definitely a little bit of a struggle where I was just like generally like confused as to how like I approach people.
Right.
I was like, do I introduce myself as a high schooler?
Yeah.
Or do I introduce myself as like an analyst? So I think I was just a little bit confused with how to like position myself generally. But I do think like no one was like overtly like hostile or anything. I think most people were very like interested and like also.
And where did you end up now? You just lead with I'm an analyst and you should tell me about yourself.
Yeah, mostly that, but obviously if it does come up, I do share a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, a lot of what Suhani said. I guess one thing that I can add on though is when you are leading a call, even if you are to say that you're a high schooler, you're still the one with the decision. You're still leading the call, and I've not had really a bad experience with someone being like, oh, this is just a coffee intern.
Give it time.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just approached it like, hey, I'm just trying to see what you're up to. We can just go from there, and they can usually reciprocate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like they said, it's overall been a positive experience. I think while there may be some implicit bias just because we are younger,
maybe you're just doing a great job of filtering for crazy founders.
Yeah. But just because we're on the investor side of things, speaking to founders, I think there isn't much that we face in that regard.
You're imbued with the authority of the role. Okay. Nice. So what advice do you have for someone thinking about entering venture? And what would you tell them if they're considering entering VC? What questions should they ask themselves? What questions should they ask a potential employer?
Yeah, so what I've seen over the past 8 weeks is that VC is very network and connection based, like between different people. So my biggest piece of advice would be open and engaging with new people. Shooting out those cold DMs, cold emails, just being open to contacting people that you've not met before and building relationships upon that, because that's what this whole sector is built upon as far as I've seen.
So let me ask the follow-on then. How do you think this will change how you approach your next year of school socially?
I think I'm definitely going to be more open to meeting new people, talking to adults that are in the areas that I'm interested in, since we've done a lot of that.
Yep. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I definitely agree on the social aspect. You have to be very outgoing. And in addition to that, you also need to know, you have to be willing to commit the time. You have to be willing to commit the time to drive pretty far or to whatever. You just need to be willing to lock in, because really, I don't think the opportunity is ever going to, unless you get very, very lucky, the opportunity is never just going to
fall in your lap.
Yeah, exactly. So you really need to be finding the opportunities for yourself. You find the opportunities for the opportunities. And then going from there, you have to have a really good basis of knowledge. You kind of have to figure out what's your risk tolerance, like how much risk are you looking to take on a company, and from there you can kind of determine if VC is for you or not. Okay.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with all of that. And in addition, I would say in terms of advice, I would say probably stay curious and always be open to learning new things. Don't just wait for someone to tell you something, but actively do a Google search, do that Coursera course. Actively think about the questions that you have and try to answer them yourself before just asking other people. So I think that's the first thing. And I think another thing would be like always be like well prepared. So like whether if you're like, you know, on a call with someone, you always want to like know their background before you get on, like have questions, at least even if it's just one or two, like prepared. So I think like always being well prepared before you're about to like take a big leap or like try something new is something that I would recommend as well.
Cool. Okay, so I'm going to try to do some slight curveballs here. Let's go with what's something about VC that no one talks about but they should.
I'm going to think a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
I think one of the things about VC that no one really talks about is that a lot of these companies are there's one side of VC that's based on a lot of hype. There's like I think this is perpetuated on LinkedIn quite a bit.
Sure.
Where there's a lot of companies purely running on hype. There's companies with no product.
Sure.
And I guess to a certain extent, when you have a team capable of making the product, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But also there's a side of VC where I believe it's a little overdone. Where a lot of companies are being funded without the fundamentals that a company should have to be receiving sort of funding. And a lot of companies are growing solely based on hype for the sector or product that they're in, like AI, for example. Before that, it was blockchain and Web3.
Sure.
It's like
Sure. Okay.
To add on to that, I would definitely say vanity metrics is a really big thing. So what vanity metrics is that, I'll give an example of like a social media platform. They could say that they have just some crazy number, 100 billion views.
Yeah.
How much money are they making per view? It's not a lot if there's no advertising. I think that's nice. It looks really nice on paper that, you know, we have so many views, so many users. If you're not making any money on those users, it's just kind of a charity platform. So, you know, going into that in VC, you can kind of be pretty aware of what to look for, which definitely helps out a lot. If they're showing stats that aren't really about making money or, you know, their competitive edge or anything like that, then it's a little bit easier to discern.
You know, always improve your bullshit detector, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think definitely there's a lot of things that are like flashy, and I think one thing that I was kind of surprised by was like the level to which you need to kind of unpack things.
Yeah.
So like again, you might have like some really impressive like gross number, but then you really need to like go deeper and see like, okay, what's actually happening on the inside. So even if you have like, you know, XYZ visitors on your site, like how many of them are actually like converting into like paid members, and kind of just unpacking that whole almost like funnel. I was kind of surprised by that like that was something you need to do.
So what was the craziest moment you had? Like wacky startup or goofy speaker? Or...
I think there's been like quite a few of those, especially at like pitch events. Like I think there was someone who was like on a treadmill as they were pitching, which was a little bit surprising.
Yeah.
And someone who had like a strange array of like bookmarks, like asking questions, like for example, like how to do crypto when they were like pitching a company that was related to that. So I think there've definitely been quite a few like goofy moments that were like, okay.
Yeah.
You have to think a little bit.
Okay.
There were definitely a ton of really goofy experiences we've had in pitches, and we also actually went to a networking event that happened to be at a beach, which was pretty unconventional, and as part of that, one of the things they were doing was surfing, as part of a networking event. So that was pretty unique.
No, sometimes those bonding moments, you know, get you out of your regular space. Okay, what's a trend you're weirdly excited about? What do you see out there that maybe people aren't talking about, but has captured your interest based on the deal flow you've seen?
I'd say AI, but not the AI where everyone's building ChatGPT wrappers.
Okay.
The AI where companies are starting to use these new methods and ways to train your own model.
Yep.
They've been using all sorts of really unique data streams for that. So there's people using health data, people using like all sorts of different data points that aren't very conventional, and have been applying that to very specific sectors. And I think that's a pretty cool trend.
Okay.
I'd say for me, it's been kind of the more tangible, the resource, collection. You could have companies that are, doing different kinds of mining. That's very interesting to me. You also have aerospace, which is just crazy. Some of the stuff we can do in space, just the capabilities. And to think that it's just up there, and we're able to access it fairly easily now. That's very, very impressive.
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with those two. But I think a third thing that's kind of exciting for me is like kind of electricity and power related companies. So I think with AI, a lot of people are concerned about like servers and like data centers because they use so
Power's
much
local
so much
and the
power.
grid's immense,
So
yeah.
so they want to.
Yeah.
There's a lot of companies focusing on like electricity storage solutions or finding ways to optimize the grid or sell power back to the grid. So I think I really enjoy looking at those companies.
All right, so if we look beyond the office walls of 1435, if there was one VC that you could shadow for a week, who would it be?
Obviously, there are a lot that I have in mind, but I think
Sure.
like in terms of like a potential like next step, I think it would be Rajiv Kapoor at Chai Ventures.
Yeah.
Because I think he, like, I don't know, I've heard him speak a lot. I follow him on social media platforms,
Sure.
and he seems like, first of all, very willing to have like interns or like have new people involved in the process. And also, I think he runs a growing firm, so I think it would be interesting to see, how a VC operates in a firm that's still like very much growing and like literally just getting started.
Yeah.
Especially because I think I would probably be able to have a little bit more of a hands-on opportunity.
Sure, it's always good to get in a growing organization.
For me, I'd just say Anderson Horowitz. I know that might be a little.
No wrong answer.
Yeah, but I just think that the scale of what they do and still
Yeah.
being considered to be like doing a lot of VC investments. To me, I just want to see the scale of it. I just want to see that deal flow. Just
Okay.
kind of learn. You meet a lot of people.
And is there a partner there in particular, or just that's the firm?
I think just the firm in general.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I pretty much agree with Steven. Having
Okay.
been exposed to this side of East Coast VC, where
Sure.
we're looking more at the fundamentals.
All right.
of the
Who's from
company.
San Francisco here?
Yeah.
Let's raise your hand. All right. Yeah.
So I sort of like to gain exposure to the Silicon Valley VC side of things.
Sure.
And so
Sure.
I guess Anderson Horowitz would be the epitome of that.
Okay. I probably give the ring to Sequoia personally, but no one's going to disagree with that's okay. Let's go to some kind of funkier questions. What's your favorite founder trait?
When they're able to say what differentiates their product from other products in the same sector or people building the exact same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna go with that, but
All right. We got a lot of groupthink here.
yeah. Other than having a pretty discernible moat, I would also say a very big founder trait is that they're also able to recognize that their product isn't the best yet. They can kind of admit that, hey, we're not in the state that we need, but we are definitely willing to make it better.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there are like a lot of kind of obvious ones, like ambition, diligence,
Sure.
like hard work. So I think all of those for sure. But I guess in addition to that, probably like transparency. So people who are honest about like where they actually are and the risks that they're currently facing.
Yeah. Not too much spin every day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's the worst buzzword in venture?
I think, well, obviously AI is a huge one right now. I think
AI,
there's a lot of like
sure.
AI washing happening and like companies
Big
saying
time.
that they're AI companies when it's just kind of like a small part of what they really do. So I think definitely AI.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely the biggest answer.
Okay.
Yeah, 100%
All
agree.
right. So I'm a big AI washing is the thing, guys. So no arguments from me. What sector do you feel is the most underrated right now?
I think personally for me, like defense tech,
Yeah.
it was never like something It was
All
never
right.
something I like fully thought about earlier.
First mover advantage. Yeah.
It was never something I fully thought about earlier, but I know like in 2024 there's like a huge influx of funding into defense tech, and it's very
Yeah.
much like an emerging space, like especially like in the climate that we're on right now. So that's something I'm really excited about. Something I'm definitely like
Nice.
pursuing.
Other than defense tech, aerospace is just
Okay.
really cool.
Yeah.
I know I've already touched on it before, but I just think capabilities in space is definitely something that is like kind of the new horizon, like the new frontier. For sure.
So we've been exposed to this through Andrew,
Yeah.
Ocean Tech. I think
Yeah.
from what we understand, it's a pretty underrated sector that is poised for growth.
That's a
in the
shout out to
future.
Andrew in the back, by the way. So, okay. Yeah, excellent. All right, on the flip side of that, what's the most overhyped? And you can't just say AI because every company uses AI, but what's the most overhyped sector or pick something?
I guess specifically in AI, a more like specific niche is all the different chats. There's a chat for everything.
Yeah.
When you just go to ChatGPT and
Yeah.
get the same results.
Yeah, okay.
I would say specifically agentic AI, which is a little bit
Okay.
different than chat.
Sure.
Than chat-based AI.
Sure.
just because there's, again, so many quantities of it, and in addition to that, agentic AI is more, it tries to combine a lot of different traits together that, again, could just be very easily replicated.
Yeah.
Like, we saw one that we could literally just have 2 tabs open, and then it would just be basically
Yeah, that's their swarm right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I have to kind of agree with that, and also just like kind of enterprise SaaS as a whole. Like, there are a lot of like repeat companies and things that we see. And similarly, I think this is like a little bit like less so, but I think at times I'm also seeing things like that in like fintech, where these companies kind of doing things that already exist or kind of doing kind of repeat things. But I think it's definitely more so in the AI space.
Okay. Favorite founder fuel, like drink or snack?
I'm not sure. Like,
what's your favorite?
What's my favorite snack?
Yeah.
I think I'd have to say, like, I really like kind of natural hydration, so I really like something like.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't have them in the office anymore, which is a little disappointing. But bungos. Do you know bungos?
No.
Okay. They're kind of like a.
I'm here to get educated.
Yeah, so. They're a little bit like a Twinkie, but like in the shape of a fish, and they're more like chocolate on the inside. They're really good.
Wow.
Yeah. I only limit myself to 1 a day.
Chocolate-filled fish Twinkie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I totally agree. The first 2 weeks we had them in the office, they were the best snack I've ever had.
Oh man, we gotta like give out a bungo. All right, we gotta give out a bungo award.
I'm not sure if I'd go quite that far. But.
All right. Well, this is the first thing where we don't have panel consensus, so I'm glad I asked the question. All right, favorite social media platform for work, getting stuff done as a venture person?
Definitely LinkedIn. I think that's where the startup community resides on the internet.
Okay.
I've got to meet a lot of cool people through that, connected with cool people. Every time we go to an event, we're exchanging LinkedIn, so you have to be LinkedIn.
All right. Love it.
I think LinkedIn hands down, but I would give a shout out to Instagram because they're, in terms of, depending on what your business is, it's a little bit easier when you're on the consumer side of things.
Sure.
You could very easily market yourself very well on Instagram and give yourself a very good brand name. A good example I could give is like Red Bull.
Yeah.
Just because the amount of content they produce on Instagram.
Yeah.
That gives them a very big like hype status, which kind of increases a lot of sales and kind of makes them a good like brand name.
Yeah, I also use LinkedIn a lot, but I think another thing that's interesting is X, especially for Twitter, X. However you
artist formerly known as Twitter. Yeah.
But yeah, I think there are a lot of like VCs on there who post interesting things or post their thoughts. So depends on who you follow. I think X can actually be a great resource.
Okay, great. Let's see. What's the VC concept that took the longest to click with you?
I would probably go with being able to, I guess, initially talk to founders, lead calls. That did take me a little bit of time to adjust to, because I kind of just come from the background. I got the questions. I know what the information I want to get out of the call,
right?
And I just want to stick to that. Because I just see it as a good objective.
So going off road.
But going off road is really where you learn the most, in my opinion. So for me to make the transition was pretty hard. I'd say by this point it definitely has clicked a lot more for me. Because now I'm able to not really rely as much on like a question list. I still write down like what
what you're trying to get.
But I'm just not subject to like that list alone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it would also be the fact that in the end, to be realistic, you have to narrow down the number of companies that you're going to be speaking to. I think there's so many cool companies that we've seen, but in the end, we obviously can't talk to every company and like deal with that many companies.
I think like in terms of like a concept, one thing I was very surprised by was that I like had no idea before I obviously joined the internship how like a firm was structured or how the partners worked or all the legal complications around starting a firm and running a firm. So I think understanding a little bit more about like the corporate structure of a firm and then also understanding the regulations that it had to comply with was kind of a little bit of a process for me because there's simply like so much.
So when the three of you came in, and you don't all have the same answer obviously, but did you really understand the 220 and the 10x returns to make it work and go through those models? Was that all like in the Coursera course, or was that stuff that you got exposed to here?
I think most of it was stuff that I was exposed to within the first couple of days of the internship, because obviously we did do onboarding and we were able to ask a lot of questions. But I would say that I did definitely know a little bit more than I thought about the field, simply because of the conversations I've had in the past. So I knew basically how a venture capital firm works, and I did know about like the 2 and 20, but I didn't know about a lot of the other things that I ended up learning about when I came here.
For me, it was definitely a lot more learning on the job, even though I did have a little bit more experience previously. It was a lot more moments of saying, oh, I remember that, or oh, yeah, the 220. Slang, though, was not on Coursera.
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So that was definitely a big adjustment, which is good because it's a way to relearn it, which means you're going to internalize it more.
Okay.
I think there was some overlap in the stuff that overlaps with public equity and all those terms, but as part of the internship, we did learn a lot of stuff like the 2 and 20 fee structure and all that.
Yeah. Okay. So a couple of things I'd like to do. One is I know we have at least one startup in the room, but I would like to call on founders here to do a 1-minute pitch and then take questions from the panel and just get a feel. So, bringing you the mic. Come on up.
So what are you going to say? Tell them about your company. Okay.
No pressure.
It's great.
Hey guys. This is the first time I'm here.
Totally unscripted, by the way. I put them on scripted. So.
All right. So we are going to launch a new startup next month, and this is about agentic AI sales solution. So basically, this is going to help our entire sales cycle to get automated from the start to the beginning to the end. So basically, let's say you have run the market campaign for any of your product into the LinkedIn or any of the social media platform, and you have, let's say, 10,000 inquiries. So our sales bot will help them, automizing it, like all the filtering out all the qualified leads. And let's say if you have 10,000 leads coming in, you will have only 500 of those, which is really important and qualified for this business approach. And that will automatically reach out, the sales bots, and they will book the calendars on the invite for the human-based sales touch base, right? So my wife is sitting over there, right? She's a physical therapist in Midtown, working in Midtown, New York. So the one day she just came to me saying that, hey, my clinical hours are like 7 to 7, and apart from that, I'm losing so many of my customers, right? My patients, basically. So what can we do about it, right? So I have been working in the tech industry for last 10 years. I have been currently working in the investment bank in New York, Mizuho Securities. So I have enough experience accumulated throughout my years, and based on my IT tech experience, I have been working on this product for last 2 years. I mean, I have a couple of downfalls and hiccups here and there as well. But finally, I'm at the stage where I have my 95% of the product almost ready. So probably this is where I'm at the stage where I'm defining my legal and corporate structure of my company. And last week I just incorporated my company in New Jersey. So I'm looking forward for more understanding for legal and corporate structure. So maybe you can advise me something on how should I go about it, or
So I wouldn't say that we have too much experience in the legal side of things. There is a group called NJEDA, New Jersey Economic Development Authority.
Raise your hand. Okay.
Yep. And so they help startups like yours that are incorporated in New Jersey with that sort of, with starting up basically. They have grants and programs that might be helpful.
I would say also, you may be a little too early for this, but just definitely keep this in mind when you are developing your product, when you are researching. Try to reach out to some potential clients and see if they could maybe throw you a letter of intent or a memorandum of understanding. And at the very least, that would just show investors that there's interest in the product, that there is a potential market for the product that you can then use to kind of use the basis for pitching and saying, hey, we have traction, we have people that use our product.
Yeah, I think I have pretty much nothing to add on to that. I do think that if you have questions, about like legal and like incorporation and things like that, I would definitely not maybe ask us because we still have only been here for 8 weeks. So.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and at this point, I'd just like to turn it over to the audience for questions. You can ask about anything.
That's an interesting question. What's like I would say the most like coolest like startup that kind of like interested you most, but like something that you couldn't like endure or like kind of get into because of like this time.
Like the coolest we could not get into?
Yeah.
There's been some like resource extraction ones, which they seem really cool. Just like the technology they have to extract resources is really interesting. Sometimes it's a little too early, which is not really part of our fund thesis. Is we only do after a certain stage, and that's just a kind of the earlier the stage, the more risky they are. So even if we like the team, we got to be like, okay, we got to step back and realize, okay, this may be a little too early for us. But still though, very cool technology, which yeah.
Okay.
I can also add to that. But I think another thing that we particularly think is cool is that we see a lot of like biotech and med tech companies. So that's like medical devices or like drugs, things like that. We just aren't able to invest in those or get into those because it's not part of the fund thesis. But it obviously is a very cool space.
Right, and for the audience, so a fund will have rules about strategies that filter what you say no to. If we only consider certain industries or we only consider certain check sizes, and part of approaching a venture firm is understanding you have to be this tall to go on the ride, and so you need to know that you're the right fit. Next question, yeah.
Yeah, so you guys talked about the difference between East Coast and West Coast VC. I was just wondering if you guys could give a little more insight into like characterizing what East Coast VC looks like.
Oh yeah, so I'd say the main difference is the West Coast VC runs on hype. East Coast VC is a little more focused on fundamentals, looking at the team's ability to execute on what they're building, their financials. It's looking for a company that'll 2 to 3x over the next couple of years, as opposed to Silicon Valley investing in 100 companies, of which 99 are going to go bust and one is going to 1,000x.
Yeah, basically, I'd say the difference that I see is a lot of companies on the West Coast get invested in, compared to a little bit more select, a little bit more like cherry pick on the East Coast. There's definitely a lot of overlap though, like a lot of skills that you learn on the East Coast translate to the West Coast.
So I would say 30 years ago, the West Coast deck was 10 slides and the East Coast deck was 50 slides and 5 years of financial projections and a whole lot of overhead. And the brand I hear is that the East Coast is more deliberate. I think that was, your answer was more diplomatic, but there's some of that. And it depends a little bit on what kind of business you're in. If you need to go out to the West Coast, but New York is the second largest venture investment city in the world after the Bay Area, so a lot of capital on both sides. Sure.
So I assume you guys started your internship in the beginning of June, right? So how's your schedule coming into the office been until school ended, and then also when summer vacation started?
I think it definitely depends on like where you live. So I think for me, I was lucky enough that my school had ended before I started, so I think it would be basically impossible to do them both concurrently. But I think for me, my commute is really, really long because I come in from the city, so it's around 2 hours or even more. So for me, my days tend to be very long, and I end up waking up at 7 and getting home like towards 9. So it can be pretty tough depending on like where you live and like what your expectations are and like how your commute looks like, but I think it definitely depends.
Yeah, I would say, it is a full-time job. You are, at the office, 40-hour work week, and plus commute time or whatever that is. And, if you're able to do that, that's great. You're able to, like hit those hours. You can enjoy the job. It's not like something you don't look forward to. I would say, for me, I think, because I was on a little bit before the program began, I didn't really work as much, obviously, as I do now. But I would say, just in terms of scheduling, it kind of just feels like you're going to school, just a little bit longer, a little bit further away.
Yeah, so our schedule has generally been 5 days a week. We're in the office from the morning to the evening. But you know how they say, like, if you like your job, it doesn't really feel like a job. So I guess it really doesn't. Yeah.
You know, my snarky line to my kids is, what's the difference between a job and a career? 30 hours a week. So it's they're putting in the work here. Any questions from the audience in the back? Okay, I'm gonna just why don't you go to the pastor?
First of all, thank you for speaking here. We all appreciate it. I'd just like to hear a bit about your future plans and how this internship has affected those.
Okay, so I think that because of the internship, I've gotten a bit more into VC than the VC world, and I feel like I'm more likely to remain in the VC world as a result of the internship.
Yeah, I mean, you know, just going in the future, I still have another year of high school left, and then, you know, going into that, you know, there's some options that, you know, I could be, you know, taking. I could be, you know, taking a gap year. I could be, or just immediately going to college. I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do yet. I do have a little bit of time. But I think what VC does, though, or at least this internship specifically, is it gave me a lot more options. It kind of gave me at least clearer lenses about what my options really are, even though I don't really know which one I'm going to take yet.
Yeah, I think for me, my next few years are probably a little bit more unclear. I also could possibly take a gap year or also go immediately to college, but I think long term it's definitely made me a little bit more certain that I want to work in finance, whether that's in VC or a very similar field. Also, I do think that because of the exposure that I've gotten to, you know, more technical companies throughout this internship, I've also kind of developed an interest in getting more involved in tech and like kind of developing more of my technical skills, and also, you know, potentially working with one of those startups at some point in my future. Maybe not the ones I immediately saw throughout this internship, but another technical one.
All right, we'll call it here. I just want to say you're amazing. The future of venture is bright, and this is a chance to get connected with VCs early in their career, and their value will only compound. So thanks again to all of you.